Now, take a moment and look around you. Okay? Look around you. Just take a moment and look around those people that you're with. You're either with colleagues, you're either with team members or friends. Whether you realize it or not, you are impacting them and they are profoundly impacting you. You impact their human potential and in turn, they impact your human potential, correct? Yes, say yes if you agree. Now, how do you either accelerate their human potential or neglect it depends on a simple factor as to how psychologically safe you feel or they feel in that relationship. Right? How you see, psychological safety is everywhere. It is all around us. It is the heartbeat of culture. 60 billion interactions every day from 8 billion people across the world. And psychological safety is that heartbeat that either nourishes the human potential, nurtures it, or neutralizes it. So each one present here, put your hands up if you're mentally and physically here. How many people are physically here, mentally elsewhere? Okay, don't put your hands up. But if you are, I'd like to see your hands. Yeah, one more time. If you're physically and mentally here. Okay, you are. Okay, got that. I'm talking to the right audience then. But what is important to realize is that each one of you that put your hands up, you are the cultural architects of those around you. And that's what I want to say. You are a cultural architect. Now the question is, you can shape this either by default. Yeah, okay, it just happens. That means you get what you get, not what you need. Or you can design the culture around you. You can't be neutral. You're either creating the way or getting in the way. You can't be neutral. That's impossible. Okay? And psychological safety, by the way, is not a checklist on your to-do items. It's a process. It's not a project that has a start and an end. It is a, say it with me, what is it? It is a process. It's a way of life. It's like, and the question is, do we all strengthen our hearts after we get heart attacks? No, we just have it every day, right? Eating healthy is a lifestyle change. Building psychological safety is a bit like that. Okay? Are you with me? Yeah? But the million-dollar question is, what is this psychological safety? Everybody's talking about it. It's become a bit of a buzzword, if I may say, right? What is it? It is that space where it is safe for you to be yourself. It's an environment of rewarded vulnerability. Now, what do you mean by vulnerability? We've heard this word also very, very often, no? In the last 48 hours, everybody talks of being vulnerable in some strange context, which is all true. But what is vulnerability? So I may be not pronouncing it right, but I'm trying. It comes from the Latin word vulnerare, which means the ability to have a wound. Yes? The ability to feel wounded and feel safe about it. So my friends, I ask you, what are some of the wounds we experience at work? What are some of the wounds? Who's going to share? What are some of the wounds? So put your hands up if you have, in the last 1 week, ever felt excluded, ever felt scared of asking a question, maybe humiliated, maybe felt uncomfortable to be yourself. Put your hands up if you felt in the last 1 week. Yes? Okay? All those that are partially putting their hands up, take a deep breath in and raise that hand. Okay? Can we see some hands up in the air? Be honest. This is about honesty. Right? Now you see, 60% of this room has felt it in the last 1 week. The Work in Civility report actually said one of these things have happened to employees in the last 24 hours, including leadership. One of them. Over the years, by the way, we have normalized behavior which is toxic. We have said it's okay. It's okay. We have normalized it. And there are costs we pay. So I'm going to tell you a little history about psychological safety. And it's important for you to understand, because this is a newer concept. and it is only developing. So, fundamental to know that it is part of Maslow's need hierarchy. The physiological ones were lower, the higher needs came of psychological safety, but I'm going to deep dive more into that. Okay? Let's go back as early as in 1788, you know the Chimney Sweepers Act that was passed by the British Parliament? They said that small boys as young as 4 years old should not be used as apprentice to master chimney sweepers. Now, can you see the date? How? 1788. Where are we now? Which year? 2023. Okay? After this act was passed, our economy has moved from being agrarian, we've moved to being industrial, then we are now an experience economy. So many years we took to develop that there are biological damages at work, physical damages, chemical, and then ergonomics started coming into the picture. You remember this phase where everybody spoke of ergonomic safety at work, right? Yes or no? Yes? Correct? But now is the need to make this more holistic, right? So what really happened in this space to make safety not just physical but also psychological, in 1965, somebody called Edgar Schein, he in fact coined the word psychological safety. Then other people spoke about what behaviors and attitudes were linked to psychological safety. Can you see the gap in the years though? Then in 1999, Amy Edmondson spoke about psychological safety, and she's very interesting. She started her work with hospitals and with emergency care units. So can you see the stake is very high there? If you lose out, you lose lives. And she observed in her study that all those teams that actually acknowledged their mistakes, that accepted their mistakes, had higher performance. That means less morbidity, more people alive, more leaving, doing fine. And then over the years, then Google came, and Google has all the data in the world in that sense. So they conducted Project Aristotle. And in Project Aristotle, they said high-performing teams they studied, 180 over 3 years, and then they documented it. Coming to 2020, a gentleman called Timothy Clark said, this behavior business is okay, but what we have to do is we have a process to it. What is the process that he said? So the first thing is that human beings need to be included before they need to be heard, right? We don't exclude people because of culture, because of socioeconomic status, their color of their skin, the gender. And the first level is to have that sense of inclusion. In fact, he quotes a very interesting line. It says, worth precedes worthiness. And if you feel included, by the way, if someone includes you, all you have to do is be harmless. Yeah? Yes or no? If on your table, if somebody makes you a part of the group, all you have to do is be harmless. This is called as a social exchange. Right? You remember the freedom fighter Subhash Chandra Bose? What was his famous line? In Hindi, I will say the first line, you will say the second one, then I will translate. He says, "Tum mujhe khoon do, main tumhe azadi dunga." That means you give me your blood, I'll give you freedom. The earliest kind of social exchange that we can remember. Okay? And then, when we begin to include others, we move to a state of having learner safety. That means that it is safe to learn, safe to ask questions. If I make a mistake, it's okay. But does that happen? How many of us get up every morning, say, today I'm going to go at work and ask a question and look stupid? How many of us get up enthusiastically thinking, it's okay for me to ask questions? At work, we grapple with two jobs. One is our job, and one is how I look. Impression management, right? But the question is, who's on the driver's seat of the car? Is it you or that impression management person? Learner safety allows people, so it's not just learning and development programs, but the fact on a daily basis, can I truly ask questions? And that is what learner safety is. And what's the exchange in learner safety? That means if a person allows himself to be engaged, you give him that freedom to ask those questions. And then comes contributor safety. So basic human need is to contribute. Have you ever been on a team, on a sports team, where you were fully prepared, but last minute, the coach put you on the bench? Have you ever had that experience? Anybody? You played sports in your life? Say yes. Yes? Okay. It's a very paralyzing experience, nah? If you are put on a team because you're fully prepared for performance and then you go into suspended animation. It's also emotionally very stinging. The minute the coach says, okay, go play, what happens? You just feel completely energized to go and perform, isn't it? Contributor safety is like that. Human beings inherently want to contribute. But what happens when we become micromanagers? Do we give people autonomy? Do we give them? So when, at this stage, if we give autonomy, people contribute fully. And the last stage is an interesting one. It's called the challenger safety. That means the ability to challenge the status quo, which creates the innovation. Now, we may necessarily not be tech-led companies, but innovation is today of daily life. Because there are two things. Either change will change you, or you bring about change. I mean, you either hold your nose like that or like that. Which way do you want to follow? Because when we create this space for people to be able to challenge the status quo, the job of the leader is to enhance intellectual friction, ask for ideas, be okay with candor. So psychological safety is not just the good, mushy stuff to feel, oh my God. It's not that. It's the ability to ask questions, tell someone this may not work, to enhance intellectual friction and reduce social friction, because then we have egos and temperaments that will brush against each other, right? Isn't it? So our job is to reduce that friction that begins to happen when people start asking questions. Have productive conflicts. Not all conflicts are bad. Some of us come to the best solutions at the end. Now the question is, once we do this, we will really get the brain. See, when the brain doesn't feel safe, our employees go into a shell. They withdraw, right? If people don't feel safe, they withdraw. They keep to themselves. Personal preservation becomes more important than performance. And then performance gets paralyzed. Because I'm in my own shell, right? I'm safeguarding myself. Now, why am I here, right? After all of these tall words that I mentioned. So I'll give you a little background about myself. 22 years I've been in this story. I started my work with those bruised employees who moved from one company to another like they were having affairs. Okay? People who were dissatisfied, burnt out, and disengaged. Over time, I started coaching CEOs, some that were completely lonely at the top, frustrated, some who thought that arrogance was a way to get work done. And then, over time, I was approached by organizations who said that the focus was fractured, people were disengaged, and they didn't know what to do. And when I looked at all of these three things together, it looked obvious that what was the missing piece in the puzzle was building psychological safety at the workplace. So I've devoted my life to this cause, that I want to build this world. Me and Gurdarshan, as part of our company, we want to build a world which is safe for our children, your children, and those around us. We want to be able to create these sanctuaries of inclusion and incubators of innovation and create that culture. And the missing piece is that most people that we saw, they focused on changing culture. That means understanding where are we, where do we want to go strategically, how psychological safety will facilitate that, allowing leaders to have coaching style of leadership, which means ask more questions, tell less solutions. But the missing piece of the puzzle is the employee. Because the employee is always going to look there for a solution, always blame, right? happens, not that it shouldn't, but if you equip the employee along with this piece to look at their mental health preventively, to enhance their energy levels, build their focus, preventively, my friends, the key word I'm using here is proactively and preventively, not after problems happen. That means, can we make mental fitness part of daily life? It is a competitive, strategic advantage when we do so. And working on this three-prong approach, in our opinion, is a more holistic model than just looking at the culture in isolation, looking at leadership in isolation, or just the employees through EAP solutions that never get utilized. Global utilization is less than 3%. But if we integrate these three together, it is now time for each one of you as cultural architects to crack yourself open. Ananis In, a poet, said a very interesting line, and the time had come when the pain it took to remain closed in a tight bud was far greater than the pain it took to break open. My friends, it's time to break open. If there's one thing COVID has taught us, if there's one thing VUCA has taught us, is that we don't have the answers. But at least if we can ask the right questions, if each of you can be a deliberate cultural architect, and if one line that you heard from today stayed with you, go back and make that difference. Go back and make that difference. And when you realize and want to make that difference, I will be right here. Many like me will be right here asking the 4 most magical words in the world. How can I help you? Thank you very much.